Hey guys, I hope you're well. You are back on tonight's show and we are talking about apologies and forgiveness. I've got a full house this evening. I'm very excited. Some of my favorites here and a brand new face, or two brand new faces actually. So I'm going to start with the golden oldies here, not by age, but just by being on the show. Faye. Faye was my original co-host in Ibiza. Faye's joined me for Law of Attraction. We've spoken about everything, I think, on air before. So Faye's joining us back tonight, and we're going to be going deep down the rabbit hole of apologies and forgiveness. How are you, Faye?
Fabulous, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. We were just saying we've manifested what we said we were going to manifest. Last time we did the show, we did the Law of Attraction show, and I wanted to manifest $2,000. And I got 4, which is
well, I'm super proud of you. That is amazing.
I'm very proud of me. That's not happened for me. But I'm not sure what's happened.
Get a lottery ticket. You're on a roll.
Yeah, it works out. It's gone okay, and I've now got to pay a few people and get myself sorted, but it worked. So that's proof in the pudding. We'll go on to the next show. So then we've got Paul as well. So Paul's been with us a couple of times and also got his own show on I Am Sound Radio, and that is University of Truth. And he this week, can I say, Paul, what's happened this week between me and you?
What? Yeah, absolutely.
So Paul, yeah, good. So I'm very happy because Paul accepted an invite from me to become part of the team for I Am Sound and work with me to help me build this into what I want it to be. And it's I Am Sound, TV for the soul is what I'm putting it out as. And I'm very happy. He said that he would help me with the educational side of what we're doing. And it just made me really happy. And it's also his birthday yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday for yesterday.
Yay.
Yeah, no, the world is a wonderful place. 49, anybody that thinks 50 is old, don't even think anything of it. It's a butter number. I'm only 49, but I'm in my 50th year. I'm happier, healthier, stronger, braver, more courageous than ever. Loving life. So
loving it. That's amazing. That's what we want to hear. Thank you.
You don't look 49 either, Paul, I have to say.
God. I love you.
You don't. Power of makeup, people.
And then we're going to move over to Kitty. So Kitty actually worked with me. So I met Kitty. Where did I meet you? I think I did a talk at one of your at the uni.
At uni, yeah, it's at uni.
That was ages, like 4 years ago, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow, that was crazy. Was it Regent's Uni? I think it was, and I did a talk. Yeah. And then you kind of kept prodding me, going, "Hey, can I come and work with you?"
I did, didn't I? It seems so needy. I apologise.
No, you were the keenest intern, but then the internship was in Ibiza, so obviously that's why. So Kitty came over to Ibiza and interned with me in Ibiza and supported me and Faye on the radio station at Cafe Mambo, which was awesome. And you were great at all sorts of things, especially dog sitting. I can remember you loving Raymond more than I did.
I love walks. It was great.
Yeah. So I'm really happy to have Kitty. And Kitty's got a podcast at the moment, haven't you? How's your podcast going?
Weirdly well. Started it for a bit of fun and it's like really taken off. So we weren't expecting it at all. But yeah, I love it. I really enjoy doing it. So
do you want to tell us what it's about?
Right. It's called the Dump Him Podcast, but it's about modern day dating, which we all know is really difficult. Knowing your self-worth, which is very much from that. That's where I learned that. And basically when you should just dump him, her, or them and move on with your life.
Oh, I like it. We're going to have to tune into these, I think, Faye.
They're good comedy value.
Well, I'm very, very proud of you. And I'm glad I could play a little part in your podcast and helping you get it. And obviously, if you listen to me, you're brave. Thank you so much. And then we also got a newbie. I'm sure it's not going to be your last show with either of us, actually, with either of you two, sorry. We've got Richie. So Richie is a breathwork kind of guru guy. You're mad on the breathwork. Everybody knows who you are. You know all of my friends. All of my friends know you. And you are on the scene and you've got your book out as well. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about you, just so everybody can listen?
Yeah, I mean, I basically just teach people how to breathe for a living. It's a real job, I promise you. It's been such a fun time to be able to, especially in this kind of climate, share some work that I'm really so passionate about and really hopefully help a lot of people. Because I guess a lot of people don't realize how important their breathing is and how it can impact them. And to be able to make massive changes in your life just by breathing in a certain way for a little bit, or maybe all the time, seems like a pretty quick win, right? And and that's also what I talk about in my book as well. It's called Exhale, of course. And it's all about learning how to breathe in a way that is most conducive physically, mentally, and emotionally for you and for the things you want to do in your life. So out in all good bookstores and all that fun stuff. But yeah, just so happy to be here with you guys and to be chatting about pretty tricky topic for many people, right?
Indeed, yeah, it's an uncomfortable one, and we need your breath work. Not that you're doing any tonight, because we did plan that, but what I've actually got is something else better for that for another time. But we did need your breath work, because it's a huge thing, isn't it, to go through, is your forgiveness and really learning to forgive, and kind of going through apologies. They're awkward as hell, and knowing how to breathe through such situations is perfect. So we're going to get some tips off you for later. So I wanted to just give a little shout out to everyone at Waterbear College. So Waterbear College, this video is going to go to them directly, and we are going to kind of help you kind of navigate any emotions and feelings. We're going to have a talk about our awkward moments and how we got through them, and just give you some tips towards the end of how you can maybe apologize, or maybe how you can hold space for an apology. And forgiving people is just as important as apologizing to them as well. And a little shout out to David Revolution and Rebecca Fletcher. So hello guys, thank you for listening as we go live. So I'm not sure what Paul's doing under there, but we'll start with you, Faye. Go for it. Paul's just, there you go, coming closer to the
Quite a distraction there, Paul.
There you go. Oh, right. Yeah, you plug it. Yeah, go do that. You can plug in. So Faye, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go raw on this evening. So I want your raw honesty, please.
You never get anything else but my raw.
I know. I want as deep as you can go. I want to know the most awkward time with as much detail as you can, for you to actually, give an apology. What did you do wrong that you had to give an apology for? And go deep into that for me if you can.
Well, that's a powerful question, and I wish I had a bit more time to think about it, actually. I wish I had his one I made earlier, sort of Blue Peter job of an example. I was having this conversation with my mum and dad the other day, and saying about how actually I do like saying sorry. I like apologizing. I find it actually quite a liberating thing to do. I don't have too much difficulty in apologizing when I've done something hurtful to somebody. When it's apparent that I have hurt somebody, either they've said something to me or I've gone away and I've thought about it. I think I'm actually probably over apologetic. I'm one of these people that kind of apologizes before an issue's even been raised. Do you know what I mean? I apologize ahead of time. So apologizing is not so difficult. I think for me, really, the difficulty is actually saying sorry to myself. It's the self-forgiveness. It's owning up to things and taking responsibility for something that I'm not proud of. It's just looking, before I even apologize to myself. That's hard enough. But yeah, when it comes to saying sorry to people, I can't. No examples come to mind at the moment. I'm sorry.
I am coming back to you, so I'll give you
come
more
back
time.
to me. I'll have to have a little think.
Kitty,
about
you're
it.
up next. Go for it.
Same question, yeah?
Yep, same question. Awkward time when you had to apologize, and what did you do?
Right. Okay. I don't know if this is even legal to say, so we'll just hope so.
You can say anything you want.
Like
YouTube shadow bans are fun these days, so regardless of what happens.
And I'm not famous, so it doesn't matter.
You're not, there you go. You might be one day. Yet.
It's going to come out. Okay, so I think the hardest apology I had to do was actually to my parents, which might sound quite cliche, but I was quite young at the time. I was, oh my God, I want to say 12 or 13. And this guy had put a lot of pressure on some girls in the year, and I fell victim to it, of sending rather illicit pictures, right? Now take into account the age, 12, 13, this is really young to be doing this. But for some reason, I thought, okay, it will get him off my back. It'll get him to shut. Now, obviously, I didn't realize at the time this was really illegal because I basically created underage porn because I wasn't even nearly 18. Great. Well
I love
well
how
done, Kit.
awkward you get. Yeah.
Good effort. And I had basically texted one of my friends saying that I had done this, and was she going to do it too? Because obviously, the more people you got on, the worse it made you look, right? I mean, the better it made you look. And my sister had gone through my phone. She'd found out I'd done this. She then went and told my parents. The school then got involved. The police got involved. Luckily, I didn't get a criminal record. But having your parents come to you because of what you've done, something like that, which is just, it's embarrassing, you know?
Ooh,
It's like, did they need to know? Did I need my father constructing an email to the school explaining why I had sent illicit pictures? Like, not really. And it was the, we're not angry, we're not sad, we're just disappointed.
Oh no, that's the worst.
And
We're
having to
disappointed in you.
having to apologize for that was like, ooh.
Ouch.
yeah.
I've not really had many secrets since. Everyone knows everything. It's much easier.
Yeah, no, right. I've done some stupid things in my time, and that's up there, Kitty. That's well up there.
It wasn't great.
I love your honesty, though. This is why this is a good talkwood. This is why it's all about the stuff you don't want to admit. So thank you very much for sharing.
No worries.
Do your parents still mention it now? Is it a joke, or is it one of those things that's swept under the carpet, never to be mentioned again?
You know what? It was brought up a couple of times, and I think we've moved on from it now. Luckily. It's been a few years. Yeah, it's been like over 10 years. Yeah, okay. We've moved on from it. Thank God.
Yeah, I've met your mum as well, so I bet she's happy to push that one under the carpet.
Yeah, we don't need to bring it up.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That was definitely awkward. I'm going to chuck it down to Richie. What's your awkward story?
I'm not sure if it's pretty awkward, but it's actually so funny. You know, just a couple of days ago, I was a part of a men's group, and the topic was the shame and guilt. So I'll probably just share the same thing that I shared then, because it's actually something that I haven't talked about much. And, actually, it's really well known. Well, it's known within the family because it all had to do with the family. But basically, yeah, it was like years and years ago when I cheated on my first girlfriend, where we were together for 7 years. And it was a pretty, crazy moment in my life, like looking back at it, you can see why things happen. Like, we all know cheating is a symptom of something rather than, the cheating itself. And so you can kind of see what happens. But man, it was the most insane experience and probably traumatic experience I've had to date, because that sort of admission of apologizing and then the subsequent breakup was like a breakup festival. Like, it went for 6 days of being in a house together, just eating, crying, shouting, sleeping, eating, crying, shouting, and just that for 6 days. But it's so interesting, when you do something wrong and you kind of accept, and you accept the blame, then you kind of go, I just deserve anything that happens right now, anything bad that happens. And what ended up happening was that I just ended up absorbing so much, I guess you could say, negativity is not even the right word, just real pain from everybody around me. And I just went, you know what, this is my bad, I'm going to take it on. 7 years together, the families knew each other. We were like, it was all very much, like that. We're one big group. So getting sort of the flack from all the different angles, brothers being like, you have to sit in this, and, don't turn away from it, own up to it. You deserve everything you get right now, all that kind of stuff. And so you just go, wow, I just don't have any rock to lean on or anything.
No.
But at the same time, you have to go, you know what? But I'm going to stay in this moment and continue to apologize. And that's all I can do right now. What's done is done.
Yeah.
But it's taken like 6 or 7 years, I think, to truly work through it. And once you think you've worked through it, more stuff comes up, and it's just layer by layer. So I think it's a combination of, you know, obviously apologizing to my ex-girlfriend, but you know, that forgiveness to yourself as well
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
actually the biggest part. Because
That's why
knowing
you do breath work.
breath work's been such a big part of it, you know. Actually, one of the very first big, like, kind of therapeutic styles of breath work I ever did, this was the first topic that came up, you know, it's the first thing. And you know what happened? I'm not sure if you guys have done breath work before, but you know, my whole body just went electric, went nuts. I was screaming and shouting, just this most incredible cathartic experience of just obviously that trapped emotion but it was all directed inwards, you know. It was trying to forgive but also feel sorry for myself at the same time, and it was this funny almost battle between the two of like, which side am I going to pick? Am I going to, you know, but yeah, so that was probably the biggest thing that I've ever had to forgive, and obviously in multiple directions and apologize for.
That sounds intense, Rishi.
Little bit, yeah. Sorry to bring it. I'm not sure if I'm bringing it to this level, but it was just seemed relevant because I talked about it a couple of days ago.
No, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
It's the right level. It's the right depth. It's the right awkwardness. And yeah, you and Kitty have paved the way for me, Faye, and Paul to turn out. So, Faye, I'm going to jump to Paul first, and then you've got to come back with one. So there's no getting away from this.
I've actually got loads coming up now. Yeah, it's just...
I saw Paul looking away. I'm thinking he's probably choosing which one to do. But Paul, go for it. Tell us your awkwardness.
I really can't think of one that is really going to make people cringe. Not that I've been a really good boy at all. It's just that, I don't know. I think I probably only just learned to say sorry. Before I didn't have it in me. I had this kind of maybe arrogance around kind of, getting on and I will have done loads of bad things. But maybe kind of at that time, back in the day when I was in England, I was this determined kind of guy that was just cracking on, and sorry wasn't really a big part of me. But now, over the past, I don't know, 10 years, when I've really kind of had to look within, started doing all that good spiritual work that makes you question yourself. I agree with you, Faye. It's commonplace. I mean, one of my mantras is, if you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying hard enough. So every single day, there are reasons to say sorry all around me, and I do all the time. To my wife, to my child, to my team, to my friends, to my parents, all the time, because I want to bring it back. Actually, before the sorry bit. So why do you need to say sorry? You need to say sorry because you've done something wrong. So accepting that you were wrong, and I said this to you before, and that the phrase "I am wrong" is an incredibly powerful phrase. It's one of the most powerful phrases you can ever speak, because it is pure ownership. It is pure acceptance that you made a decision and you own that decision, and now you recognize that decision was wrong. And what that means is, next time going forward, you will change your behavior. You will resonate at a different level. You will act in a different way. And therefore, that is evolution. That is progress in a positive way. So we have to be able to actually speak the words "I am wrong," or at least think the words "I am wrong," and then go, okay, so what is the consequence of that wrongness? It's, yes, you need to apologize, but also you need to then formulate a way to change your future actions if you were in a similar scenario, or if the same circumstances apply. So yeah, I mean, I'll just say the one that springs to mind is 2 weeks ago at work. One of my team said to me, "You know what, Paul? I've noticed the last couple of meetings and last couple of times we've been together, you've really kind of cutting people off, and you're being really short with people, and you're not allowing people to express themselves. And he was beautiful about it. He said, I really care about you, and I want everybody else to care about you in the same way as me. but I think you're really letting yourself down. I went, oh my God, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So I thought about it. I went, yeah, he's absolutely right. Because since the start of the year, in my world, it's crazy. I went in the world of online education, and it is so busy at the moment. And I'm just like bang, 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 very, very, very busy. And I absolutely recognise that in meetings, I've been like, quick, sharp. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. And just being a really annoying boss for my team, obviously, and colleagues for everybody else that has to deal with me. So I said to my team, I said to all the colleagues that I work with, I said, I'm really sorry. It's been brought to my attention that I've probably been a bit of an arsehole in the last few weeks. So I just want to express that I recognise it, and some of them were lovely, and some of them were like, yeah, thanks, yeah, let's move on. But yeah, I mean, it's vital, it's important, and if you've got people around you that can call you out, even better. When someone calls you out, yeah, if you take it personally and put in those defensive kind of, what, me? No, I'm perfect. You start doing that, you're not working with what the universe is giving you. The universe is giving you a sign that, look, you need to listen to this. You need to clock what this person's saying, and not get all defensive and emotional about it, and actually see it as a real gift, as a real
even though you didn't say it was like the most awkward, I think that was a really good, well-rounded area that we needed to go into. What you just discussed then was, you pretty much did the whole show, Paul, in like the last 6 minutes.
Yeah.
We don't need to be here anymore, it's absolutely fine. But no, thank you. And it's, you went deep into that, and I think everyone could resonate with it, and we've all been guilty of the things that you said, so thank you for taking ownership. I love that. And Faye, you thought one yet?
Yeah. Now they're coming quite thick and fast, actually. No, I'm thinking about it, actually. Yeah. It's which one to pull out. I mean, the first time that I ever felt really, really, really bad was I got home from school, and I think it was the last one of my exams. Of my GCSEs, and my mum said that she was going to take me out for dinner as a well done for finishing my exams. And I got home, and normally, I throw my bag down and I shout hi, and there was nothing. She didn't say anything back. I said, Mum, where are you? Nothing. So I went out into the garden, and she's hanging up the washing on the line. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. And I said, are you all right, Mum? And she completely ignored me. She's never ignored me before. Completely ignored me. And I said, Mum, what's the matter? What's the matter? And then she finally said, I think you need to speak to your dad. I don't want to look at you, and I don't want to speak to you. And she's never, ever been like that to me before. I was like, oh God, what's happened? So I went into the house. My dad had just got home from work, and he said, we're really, like, his Uncle Kitty, we're really disappointed with you. What have I done? And he picked up this letter, which I'd written, which I'd stuffed at the back of my socks drawer in my bedroom. And it was a letter that I'd written about my mum, from some argument that I'd had. I mean, what was I, 15, 16? I was constantly arguing with my parents, and I was a right little terror. I was horrible to them. And I can remember writing this letter saying about how I wanted to leave home, run away from home, and I hated my mum and what a bitch she was, and I listed everything that I hated about her. I mean, it was rubbish. I don't hate my mum. My mum's my favorite person in the world, and I was just exercising all of these, teenage demons at the time, and really just needing to, because I wasn't allowed to get angry at home, and I didn't have an outlet for it. And so I just wrote it all down. I kind of journaled it, really. And then I folded it all up and then put it at the back of my sock drawer. And my mum had gone in there as a special treat and cleaned, because I never cleaned my bedroom. So she was really trying to be nice, and she found it and opened it and read it. And it was bad. It was really, really bad. And she was proper hurt from that. She couldn't talk to me. And the fact that she was going to take me out for dinner on that night as well was it was heartbreaking, and I felt awful, really, really bad. And I was saying, Mum, I'm so sorry. It was catching my throat, when you try and say the words, and you just think, I don't know how I'm ever going to repair this. You can't take it back. That's what's so awful. And sometimes sorry doesn't even. It's just a word, and you've got all of this energy inside of you, like, please forgive me, I feel terrible about this, but it doesn't undo what's happened, and your fate then lies in their hands, doesn't it? You just hope that they can forgive you for that one. I actually still find it quite hard to forgive myself for that, but I do know that teenagers are pretty nasty and they don't mean what they say, and I was probably very hormonal at the time and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. I know the relationship you got with your mum as well, so that must be really tricky.
Yeah.
It's the ownership, like you say, though, and we're not excusing any apologies or any kind of forgiveness or anything. What we're talking about it in a good way today. I think everyone's kind of rounding their story off really well, and about understanding that we do have if we don't have a creative outlet for our anger and for our frustrations, it stems and stems and stems, and somehow it comes back to us. But you obviously were doing the right thing by writing it down rather than shouting it, which is what I would have done when I was younger. And
I would have it as well, but I was probably sent to my room and I wasn't allowed to shout, so I wrote it down instead.
Yeah. God, if my mum was in control of my mouth and not shouting, that would have been heaven. But no, but thank you very much for sharing that, Faye. I really appreciate it. So
what about you?
Yeah, I was going to go there, but thanks.
I'm just making sure.
No, just making sure it's good.
Impression time.
I've said sorry more times than I've done anything else for the amount of times I have royally, and I'm going to swear, fucked up. Like you wouldn't believe how many times. But I was a terror. I ran away when I was 16. I had a boyfriend that was in prison. I chose my boyfriends really, really well, let's say, when I was younger. And there's two things actually I'm remembering that I had to say sorry for. One, I actually said sorry for last night to my mum, because I found that key, that I told you that I found the key last week. Yes. And I said, I want to put this, I found this beautiful silver key. And I'm holding it all week, and I feel like it's really significant. And there's been so many great things happening this week. So I'm like, I want to wear this key. So I'm thinking I want a chain for the key. And my mum was like, I might have one of those in the old jewelry box. And she gets out her jewelry box, and she's there spending ages of time getting into it. It's this old fashioned thing. And she gets in it, and this is a little joyous jewelry box, but it comes with a really sad story, because she said, well, she goes, my jewelry box would have been great if your boyfriend hadn't have stolen all the diamonds out of my rings. And I was just like,
he didn't.
I was just like, she went, yes, look, no. Here and here. And she gave me 3 rings, and this man, boy, whatever he was, I can't say anything else, had stolen all the jewels out of my mum's entire jewelry collection, but left the rest of them back in. They just left the empty holes, all the rings. And my mum said last night, look, see, there's another one, and there's another one. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, sorry. I really will choose a better boyfriend next time. It's like, I'm so bad. But that was literally not last night saying sorry. And I was like, I don't know what happened. And then my dad pipes up, because my dad's reading in bed as I'm talking to my mum. And then my dad pipes up and says, yes, he used to steal money as well out of the pot downstairs, because there's this pot of money. And I'm like, anything else? And he's like, I'm not sure. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So my boyfriend choice didn't just affect my life, it also affected my mum's life, which was, and my mum, bless her, even though he did all of that, she still took me to prison every Saturday to go and see him.
Oh, I know. Your mum is a diamond though, isn't she?
My mum's a legend.
I know the relationship between you and your mum, and it's a very good one.
It's just like we travelled 2.5 hours up to Morpeth prison, weekly to go and see my boyfriend. And it was literally awful, because the doors would go zzz, and you have to walk in, and then they'd close behind you. And then the other doors would open, and then they'd close behind you. And then you have to go through security checks, and then you'd have to sit there and wait for them to come out. So it was like a real trauma.
She was probably taking you, though, in the hope that he would give the diamonds back on one of the visits, so she could go home with them.
I know, it's terrible. But yeah, so I had, that's one of the things I had to say sorry for. And the other one is, and I think this is the worst one, but I'm going to say, technically, I was trying to be good with this scenario. It was not my fault. I was being supportive. I just got wrapped up in the wrong thing. I got detained in the Middle East, in Jordan, on New Year's Eve. Yes, on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
And
When?
I had to call my mum. So long story very short, I was out there, I was dancing at this prince's party, and they weren't supposed to drink alcohol in Jordan, but it was locked rooms, everyone was drinking. It was like a hall of 1,000 people. Everyone's wasted and drinking, even though they're not meant to, and it's against their religion or whatever it is. So the girl that I'd gone with and a few other people who we were working with, the girl that I'd gone with had decided that it was a good idea to drink just as much as everyone else there and take loads of speed. And we had to get a flight the following morning, which was like 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve. So it was like early hours, New Year's Day. So we go to the airport, and she steals a bottle of wine at the airport in a country like Jordan. It's not a good thing where they chop your hands off. She steals this bottle of wine. She drinks this in the toilet. We get on the plane, and she's swaying like this on the plane, and I'm thinking, just sit there. I'm trying to hold her down, just sit there, just let this plane take off, because we cannot be held in this country. So I go, right, I'm going to go to the toilet, which was my worst mistake ever. I said, I'm going to go to the toilet. You just sit there, thinking that she would just sit there. Obviously, when you're being drunk and, someone's telling you what to do, you just don't listen. So I go to the toilet. All of a sudden, I see her swaying behind me going, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, God. So the flight attendant comes over and says, excuse me, miss, is everything okay here? And I'm like, yeah, she's fine. She's just scared of flying. Just sit down. And she goes, I'm not fucking scared of flying. And I'm just like, oh, no. So anyway, she shouts, she gets angry. So we get kicked off the plane. And as she's getting kind of escorted off the plane, I'm like, I can't leave her in the Middle East drunk. Like, you don't do that to your mate. So I was like, right, I'll go with her. I have no battery on my phone. She's got like 10% battery on her phone. I've got no spare money. She's wasted, lost everything other than her passport. So as we go to get off the plane, she's really nasty to the guy. So by the way, they've all got guns. So they literally, all the police there, all the security, they have guns. They don't just go like stand there, we're holding their belt. They've got guns on the end of the plane. So she walks past this guy with a gun, and she's literally like flicks him and points him on the head. And she says, it's your fault for World War III. Out of nowhere, in front of an entire plane full of people. So I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get arrested. So I just kicked her in the back, and I pushed her against the wall. I was like, shut up. I am now in control. We are not going to do this. You need to keep your mouth shut. I'm going to try and get us out of this situation. And they thought I was beating her up. So they separated us, took our passports off us, took all of our stuff off the plane, and put us in 2 separate rooms. And we were in there for hours. And then we had literally one phone call to call our parents, and one phone call between us. So I had to call my mum, who was wasted, like really drunk on New Year's Eve. And I'm calling the house phone, and there's having a whole party over. And I'm like, Mum. And she's like, oh, Dad. She's like, it's your dad. She goes, do you want to talk to him? And I'm like, no, Mum, I don't really have time to talk to anyone. I really need to tell you. I'm like, I'm getting detained in Jordan. She's like, what? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I know. And then that was it. Just spoiled her New Year's. All the guests were like, your daughter's locked, what? She's getting arrested. It was the worst time ever. And she had to pay $1,500 to get us home. And we didn't get home till like the 4th of January. So like 3 days later. So it became so bad, but I had to apologize. And like on behalf of my friend, who was high for like 3 days out of the 4, because she was on speed, vodka, champagne and tequila. It was like in a country where you're not supposed to drink or steal anything. It was just the worst time. So I fully understand what it feels like to say sorry, but I didn't get away with that. I was in a lot of trouble for that. And I still, in my passport, I still have the stamps in my passport. So if I touch down in Jordan, I have to go and visit the police station within 24 hours of landing, which makes it even worse. So I'm not going back there anytime soon. So yes. These are the times when we really do have to own it and just say we're sorry, even though it costs us a fortune. So now we've done our embarrassing stories and our talk words, we're going to go on to forgiveness. And this is a tough one. So I'm not going to talk about forgiveness for ourselves yet. We're going to talk about forgiveness for other people. So knowing how you feel as you go through an apology, and that you're like, oh my God. And I think probably we've all had our shared embarrassments there. I'm going to touch on yours, Richie, because yours was like a multitude of people that you had that obviously were just like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done this. So you had shame, 360 degrees worth of shame, which is a really difficult thing to deal with. So can you tell us how, like in terms of other people doing wrong or something wrong to you? And by the way, when we say wrong, it's okay to say right or wrong. I know a lot of spiritual people say there is no such thing as wrong. We're just going to go with today on the assumption that there's a right and there's a wrong. you feel like you've done something wrong, you feel like you've done something right. So that's how we're going to determine those today. So can you let us know, in terms of maybe somebody doing something wrong to you and you having to accept their forgiveness, have you made it hard for anyone? Have you found it really difficult? What's been that process like for you?
You know, I think it's Nelson Mandela. I think it's a Nelson Mandela quote. I mean, he's got a bunch of great quotes, but where he says, holding resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Such
So
a
it's
good quote.
like, yeah. And when I first heard that, it was really stuck with me, and to the point of, you know, as soon as I feel emotional about anybody or anything, instantly seeing, oh, well, this is a reflection of me, right? This is my stuff. In fact, there's a really great exercise I like to do sometimes too, when it's around judgment of people, which in some way is relevant to this too. Like you might see somebody who's being obnoxiously loud or something like that, and you just go, oh, that person's so annoying, I hate to be that person. And then as soon as you have that thought, you finish that thought with, and me too. So that person's being so obnoxiously loud, and me too. And you go, oh, what's this saying about me?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
what is this saying about me? Why this is triggering me because of me? You know, but I don't know. There's something about when someone apologizes, at least in the way that I experience it, that as soon as someone is vulnerable enough to say sorry, it's almost like everything's forgiven. You know, as soon as they're able to, it's like I can hate somebody so much or just have that fire towards somebody so much. And as soon as you feel, and like this is the important thing, like a genuine, I'm sorry. It's not I'm sorry you feel that way that you always get right, which is the most annoying one, because it's like actually not an apology.
It's worse. It makes it all worse, doesn't it?
It makes you more angry, right?
Yeah.
But if someone genuinely goes, I'm so sorry, the way I experience that is it's almost like just an instant, like everything just settles and you just go, oh, okay, well now we can move on. And it could be something as tiny as, you know, I remember someone who was helping me out with work yesterday, not yesterday, a little while ago, but you know, just screwing up some scheduling stuff, right? Simple as that. And it actually was quite a relatively big deal. I was supposed to be doing something that was going to be really nice, and you know, I was like pissed off about it and having that imaginary conversation in my head, that imaginary argument of like, oh, this is what I'm going to say to that person, and going to come down so hard. And then it just instantly, the first thing she says is, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. And you go, oh, okay, yeah, right. We all make mistakes. So it's I think when people are vulnerable enough to kind of like what Paul said, really own it, and you know how courageous how much courage that takes a lot of the time, it's quite hard to feel anything else other than empathy.
Yeah, so true. And you know, like you just mentioned then as well, it's so important when people say, you know, it's just a slight change. It's like, I'm sorry you feel that way, and it's like, you're still not sorry. Can you
say your part? I'm sorry, but
yeah. And this is something actually happened to me this just last week. Somebody said, oh, I love you, Nat, but anything you say before but is bullshit. That's what there's no other way of looking at it. So, and he said, oh, I love you, you know, I love you, but, and then said something extremely horrible, and I was just like, oh my God. And that shows you the truth of how they feel. And that's hard, because then you're dealing with the truth, and you're like, well, I've got to just respect that that's your truth right now. But do I need to take it? Do I need to sit with that? Or can I, you know, I forgive you for saying it, but do I need to now have you in my life? Do I need to move on with that? Because it's when someone says sorry, that's fine. But what do you do after? You know, where do you go beyond that point? Can you allow them into your life? Do you want them in your life? Is that a boundary for you? We've talked about boundaries loads, Faye. It's like, what is the boundary? What, you know, how bad does it have to be before you get rid of them? Or are you really good at setting them now, and you can spot signs of kind of reoccurring behavior, and you say, no, thank you, let's move on? Because that's also really hard to move on from that. So I'm going to jump to Kitty. Kitty, in terms of, for you, forgiveness, What is it? What, like, how does it process for you? You know, if someone's done something wrong, because I remember, I'm going to mention something very slightly, and I think you'll laugh. I think you might even know where I'm going with this. Can you remember where I'm going to go?
Is it that night at Ibiza Rocks?
Oh, it's the night at Ibiza Rocks. Yes. In a long story short, I'm giving Kitty and another guy that we were working with at the time, who wasn't actually working with us, sorry, that was with us at the time, a lift back from Ibiza Rocks. And the young guy goes, shotgun, and comes and sits in the front seat, right? Because anybody that calls shotgun sits in the front seat. That's just what you do. You just get the front seat. But Kitty was not happy. Kitty,
I was livid.
she was livid. When I say not happy, this girl went through the roof. I want to say why you weren't happy, Kitty, because he was trying to apologize in the car profusely and you were having none of it. So,
do you know what, though? He'd already annoyed me. That was the problem. That I was already annoyed. We'd had this situation. We were there to see Stormzy, which Nat had very kindly got us some amazing backstage situation for. Stormzy had taken off his top. He got all sweaty. Da 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 da. This guy had taken the shirt. Right, that's a really expensive Burberry shirt. Okay, he probably wanted it back. And this guy was utterly convinced he was going to keep the shirt. And I'm like a very morally, like, I've got strong morals and I'm going to stick by them. And I was like, no, that's not ours. That's his shirt. He should have his shirt back. Regardless of how much money he's got, how many shirts he's got, it's his shirt. It's not ours. So we'd already had a whole debate about this. Finally gave the shirt back. So obviously I won that one. But it wasn't like a competition. But that was, you know, I think he was annoyed I had one up there because I got what I'd wanted and not what he had wanted. There's already a little bit of tension. Then he goes and bloody shotguns this front seat of the car. And I'm like, you know what? No, because the thing is, I worked for you, Nat. I very much felt my position was at the front of the car so I could reply to your emails, change the music, sort out the air conditioning, like whatever it was. And if we had been with the lady he worked for, I would have never dreamt of getting in the front seat because that was his position, that was his role. But it just, for some reason, it actually still annoys me. It still annoys me.
And can I just add, you also said, I am a lady. I should be in the front seat. I am the female here, don't you know? And I'm just sat in the car with the music on, like, oh shit, it's going down.
I forgot that chivalry bit, actually. Yeah, that was such a good point.
It was brilliant. So he actually, did he even get out of the front seat?
No,
he stayed in the front seat and went, I'm not moving. And she was just like, oh, you are. So she stood on the side. She goes, fine, I will not get in the car. And she didn't want to get in the car until he got out. And this went on and on. And I'm like, Kitty, I'm responsible for you. You're intern in Ibiza. Get in the car. I'm taking you home. She's like, oh. So she sits in the back seat, and it was awful because I knew both sides, but also there was a slight touch of alcohol in between, shall we say? So it was interesting. So how does obviously now you still are not over it, but like, how is it when somebody apologizes to you? Because he was so sorry. He was so sorry. By the end of the journey, that was all he was saying, and you were like,
he wasn't sorry. That wasn't a genuine sorry.
So does it have to be a genuine sorry for you? Do you have to? Can you acknowledge someone's attempt even if you don't fully feel it, or does it have to be from the heart?
No, if they don't fully mean it, go do one. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that negative energy in my life. If you're not going to be genuinely sorry when you've messed up, leave me alone. Like, and I think that was the thing with him. I don't feel like he was sorry. I really don't think he was sorry. And you know what? We've not really spoken since. We've certainly not seen each other since. So I think that was enough to be like, nah.
Faye, what's your two penneth on this? From the outside looking in. Obviously, I was there. I found it hilarious. But this is the first time you've heard it.
Well, this is the first time I've heard it. I think she's right. I think if it's not a genuine apology, then, you know, like, come back to me later when you're ready to see it. Like, it's not something you want to have to deal with, is it? Fake apologies. It's kind of worse. I'd rather somebody doesn't say anything at all than give a fake apology.
And I think also we look at actions, right? Words at the end of the day mean nothing. If he was genuinely sorry, he would have got out the front seat of the car.
Yeah.
He didn't care enough, you know. And I'm not saying he was a bad guy. I think he was a lovely guy. But there were fundamental issues between us, which is probably why we were never going to be best friends. But no, I didn't feel it was genuine.
I think,
And
you know,
it's
they
not
say
honesty.
sorry. They say sorry is meant to be the hardest word, don't they? But I don't think it's actually about sorry being the hardest word. I think it's actually admitting responsibility or
Mhm.
seeing that you might have caused some hurt or done something wrong. That's the hardest thing.
And you
That's
know
the
what?
hardest thing to do, isn't it? To actually think I've done something wrong here, as opposed to saying sorry. Because if you know you've done something wrong, then the sorry part is like you wanna make amends. You want to say sorry.
And
This
this is
guy
what
sounds like he hasn't thought he's done anything wrong at all. So he's just, you know, it's like
I think also they say, don't they, that actually saying sorry is because the person who has done wrong wants to get it off their chest. So the person who is actually receiving the sorry, it's not making them feel good. It's making the person who is saying sorry feel good. Which I think probably then leads into forgiveness.
That's a really important thing to be able to do, because we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves. And one way of doing that is, yes, owning up I was wrong, and then expressing to the individual, to the group of people, that I'm sorry, I got this wrong. And then you actually can internally, energetically move on from it, because you can put it to bed, and hopefully you can learn the lessons and make different actions down the line. So it is a really, really important part of progress, of evolution, as it were. One thing I wanted to pick up on what you said, Kitty, there is the forgiveness part. So if we're still holding on to this and we've still not forgiven him, at what point is that then still lingering within you, or still lingering around in the air? Because you will, I mean, you not I can't say this definitely, but you'll probably at some point your paths will cross again, and then there'll be this spark of annoyance or whatever, regret or they'll be there, and that's obviously not a good energy to have around. So how do you clear that?
Yeah, and I think
Close it with love, Kitty. You got to close it with love. How do we get there? How does Kitty get?
Do you know what though? So how old was I in Ibiza? 20. Yes,
Were you
summer,
20?
right?
Oh God, this makes me feel
I
so
was
old.
20.
Carry on. Yeah.
And then I invited him to my 21st birthday party. Now, this was a big party. There were about 150 people, 3-course sit-down meal. He didn't come. Fine. But I felt that was almost my olive branch, because I completely agree. And I think the thing is, for me, is I hate leaving things sort of unsettled. And that was a situation where we just sort of, when we were out in Ibiza, we then didn't see each other again after the situation, through no fault of anyone's own. You know, some days I was in the office, other days he was in the office. And then I left, and it was very much unfinished business. And I think if I were to just sit down and have a chat with this guy, it would be perfectly fine. But because I've not seen him since, we've not had that spark, as you say, not in a chemistry way or anything like that, but that moment where we've gone, oh, okay, actually, it just didn't need to be such a big thing. You know, we can move on from it. It doesn't matter, and it really doesn't matter. That's the main point out of this. So I don't know, really. I mean, it's probably like one of the few things that does still slightly bother me. Not many other things bother me, but this thing, for some reason, really bugs me.
I think it was quite interesting because of the reasons as to why as well. Because when you said to him, "I am a lady," and I think he was like, "Oh my God, have I been bad to women?" It was like literally in the car, like, "Oh my God, am I doing something wrong here to a woman?" I think he felt bad at that point because he was a man and he may have not treated a woman in the way that they deserve, and he didn't quite understand it or compute it. But you weren't having none of it. You were just stood there and you put your bag on the floor and you're like, "No."
I was going to get a taxi. I didn't care at that point.
You were going to get a taxi, but it was a really good definition of a kind of dispute there. And I guess, you know, this is what I do with all my clients. It's like, this is you, this is them. Okay. So we need to constantly be giving out love. Doesn't matter what's coming back, usually nothing. But if we can still keep giving out this love, it's like, it's a perfect thing to do. So there's a way of, because otherwise, and this is always a loop, if you don't solve it now, it will come back to visit you until it is solved.
Exactly.
always. So it might not be the dude in Ibiza that's coming, but you might meet a guy that you date on one of your, might talk about it on one of your podcasts, but it might be a guy that you date that doesn't treat you like a lady and it's pissed you off. And you have the same resistances coming back and the same things where you're like, oh, I am a lady. And then
I've probably got some hang up about it, to be fair.
Well, I think it's like these little moments in life that kind of act as like the golden threads that we can follow like deeper to go, well, what is it actually within me that is triggered? Like I know for myself, there's definitely some of those loops now that haven't been closed for me. And every time that person pops up on Instagram or something, I get that little jolt trigger spine. Yeah, and you go, oh. But I then go, well, of course, it's nothing to do with them, though, is it? It's all to do with me. They perhaps did something a long time ago, but they're not thinking about it. And actually, what is it? What is that? For me, it's that insecurity. The specific situation is this insecurity that I have that I somehow need to close. And I love that. I think you're starting to talk a bit about like law of attraction stuff there, Nat, isn't it? And it's like until you are able to close that loop and almost, change that, vibration within yourself, then you can start to move on.
Yeah. I know, Faye, you look like you want to say something. You're like,
I always do. Apart from when I'm the first person to speak and I haven't warmed up yet.
Go for it.
No, I was gonna just pick up on what you're saying there, Richie, on the personal responsibility side of things. It's really always about you, isn't it? Not you, but each one of us. It comes down to whether or not you can forgive yourself on something. Because if someone comes along and says, "I forgive you," then it's nice, but it doesn't really mean a lot unless you've forgiven yourself. That's what you're really looking for, is self-forgiveness. And it's so hard. It's about taking that personal responsibility and saying, I was wrong, like you said earlier on, and to try to apologize to yourself and find the self-love to let yourself off the hook for something. It's really, really difficult because, sometimes you think that maybe people are still harboring hurt on something you might have said or done. And chances are they're probably not, they've long forgotten about it.
But you've got that story in your head.
You've got that story and the things that maybe you should be apologizing for, you haven't even got a clue about, maybe that's because it's about somebody else, because actually it's always about the other person, isn't it? When if they're the ones with the problem, then that's them. And if it's you, then it's about you. And it seems to be sometimes just layers and layers and layers. I mean, I look at myself sometimes and I think, am I ever going to get to the bottom of all of this shame and guilt? And when I look at certain parts of my life that aren't working, I think, well, this is just classic self-sabotage, because guilt seeks punishment, doesn't it? As a very essence, guilt seeks punishment. So if you haven't been tried in a court of law, in the external world, and people haven't sort of given you some kind of punishment to see out, then you take it upon yourself. You've got a judge inside of you that says you are guilty. And this is unforgivable, so you're going to have to serve hard time now, and you take it upon yourself to be your own prison guard, I suppose, and you go through perjury. And how long does that take? I've worked with many clients that are still working off of things that they did from children that they're ashamed of and that they feel bad about, and actually they've got no reason to apologize when I hear the stories, but it's their own ideas of themselves, that they've got a high expectation of how they should be, this perfect ideal that they have of themselves, and they can't forgive themselves that they haven't reached that high bar that they've set. So I think probably we all do that. We don't live up to our own expectations, and so we self-sabotage, just carrying on punishing ourselves for this guilt.
Loop. And this is the bit like this. I love this, and I use this. I really should actually put it in like some kind of hardened thing, because I just pull it off the wall every time I have a client. But the love is going inwards first, and this is the thing. The love goes inwards, so the love goes in for the forgiveness first, and then it can go out. Goes into forgiveness. So this is the essence of everything I do with personal responsibility coaching. Is like everything goes through this, whether it's like your to-do and your admin list, or whether it's that you've hurt someone. And even I love the work of Byron Katie. And to be honest, you know, I did a lot of that stuff with myself in the mirror before I even knew of her work. And I didn't know anything about her work. And then someone said, oh, maybe I'd done a podcast, and someone said, oh, maybe you want to read one of these books. And I was like, oh, so I read it, and I'm like, oh my God, this, and she goes into even more detail than I ever did in the mirror. And she has worksheets. So they're phenomenal. If anybody wants one of these worksheets, you go to byronkatie.com, and I think it's in the top column, it's worksheets. Go and get her work, because what actually, and I did it the other day with someone that I loved dearly, that I have such a massive space in my heart for. And I said to you, didn't I, Faye? I was like, I'm going to write an email for this person and actually like own my part. So I owned everything. I went through the whole scenario, flipped it, because you kind of put it in a mirror, and whatever you have a go at them about, you have to like switch it back around, and then you own all of that, and you change it. And I was just like, oh my God. So, and I felt like so elated from coming to that realization and that truth, because I'd flipped it and was like, oh my God, it's all my bullshit, you know, and even on this bit, and I need to say sorry. So what I wanted to do was write this email, which I did in depth. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to send it straight away. I'm going to send it to my copywriter, Faye. So I send it to Faye first. And I'm like, is this okay? Do I need to correct it? Is it, you know, does it come with the intention? Because Faye knew what I was talking about. Faye's there typing back to me going, you might want to change this bit and this bit, because still my language wasn't defined in the way that I needed it to land. And then when Faye sent it back, there was every part of me before she sent it back where I was like, right, I was so elated thinking, I'm going to send this email and my life's just going to change and everything's going to get better. And when Faye sent it back, I was like, oh, something in me was like, hold it, don't send it. So then I'm like, oh, so I'm sat in the bath and I'm thinking, and I'd had it all up on my computer here, and I'm thinking, should I send it? And I'm in the bath, and I did like kinesiology, where you ask yourself, muscle testing. And it was like, don't send it. And I'm like, why should I not be sending it? And I'm like, oh, because it's for me to understand. But just because I understand it doesn't mean I now need to bring it back up 4 years later and say, hi, here's how I feel today. And how are you? Because that's intrusive in someone's life. That's bringing up something that they could be happy going on a picnic with a new love of their life, and there's me going, hey, it's like, and I've done that before. I've actually sent a 20-minute video to someone with an apology where I'm crying my eyes out on a video, and sent it to them completely the wrong time and never got the response I wanted. So I should have learned, but there was every part of me just wanted to get that bit out just so I could have the forgiveness from that person. But really, it's about you, for myself. And I'm like, there, you're like staring at this at the same time, and I'm like, fuck. And no matter how many times I talk about this, I still learn it new every time. It's so refreshing. It's like never gets old. But it's that ownership, the real ownership.
That's the healing, isn't it? That is the healing that we need to go through, the personal healing. And until we can own that that forgiveness, we are going to be in a position where those triggers are always going to trigger us. They're always going to come back because we've not dealt with it. So how do we, when we get that understanding that, oh my God, this is coming up again, this is coming up again, how do we then, like you did there, Nat, own it and then heal ourselves for it? Then hopefully we won't see it again. I think the Byron Katie thing is great, but
ruminating.
I mean, throwing it out there, is there anything else that we can do when we keep getting these same things that we have to be sorry for? Oh my God, I'm saying sorry again for, it could be I mean, there's serial people out there that are serial cheaters, that are serial stealers, that are serial whateverers, and
you got a Zoom edition on the back.
So yeah, what can we do? How can we break that?
Well, I think I'm just going to answer it for you, which I think this is my answer. It might not be everybody else's answer, but what I realized was sitting in the bath. I'm not saying everyone has to sit in the bath, but whenever I'm in the bath or in the shower,
you do all your best work in the bath, don't you? You're always saying, I was in the bath and I had an epiphany.
In the bath or the mirror, there's two things, both of which mean I'm naked and I'm just at my full self, where I'm like, I can't get away from myself and my own bullshit. But I was in the bath and I'm sat there and I'm like, I'm letting it sink in. I'm letting this feeling sink in. I'm sitting with this feeling rather than being like, oh my God, I'm apologizing, ding, and off the email goes and it's out of my life. I have to sit with that. And I sat with it and it went through all of my veins and all through. And I'm like, oh God, this feels so weird. But that's when we do the internal work, isn't it? We sit with it and we process it and process it a little bit more. And now I don't need to say or do anything with that person. I had Faye be my external copywriter validator, coming back with a few things where I even realized that I still wasn't where I needed to be, which gave me even more learning. And then now the email's deleted, it's not in the drafts, and I don't need to say anything. And that's that internally, rather than firing across a 20-minute email to someone and saying, hey, do you fancy reading this today, even though I've not spoke to you for 5 years? Cheers. It's like, no, don't do that. Even obviously you can do that if you really want to, but ask yourself why you're sending it. Because if I said to me, why would I need to send it? Oh, I hope that I'm forgiven. And what if they don't forgive you? Then there's another whole loop that you've got to go into. So actually, no. And this is another thing where you mentioned, Rishi, earlier about being on social media. When you see someone pop up and you're like, oh, shit, that little trigger that you get. I'm not on social media, and I haven't been on for just over 2 years now. But it doesn't mean I don't get triggered, because there's still things that I do get triggered with. And my friend Steph the other day said something. She's like, I've got something to tell and it's a bit sad. And I'm like, oh God. And literally my whole body was thinking of people that I hadn't seen or spoke to, because it's on Facebook. You're not on Facebook anymore. So I thought I'd let you know that. And I'm thinking of all the words. There was like 5 different things from 5 different people that I could have possibly imagined seeing and being triggered, even though I don't have social media. And then she unfortunately told me that one of my friends that I lived with in Ibiza had killed herself. And I was just like, oh, but that was the last thing I was thinking of. But I went through, before she told me that information, my body was getting triggered, as if like what it used to do when I was on social media, seeing things I didn't want to see. Like when you look at an ex's profile, or you look at something, or somebody you haven't spoken to for ages, your body remembers that, and you're like, oh God. So it was all of that was coming up. And I realized that it's like when people say they've given up alcohol because they don't go to the bar anymore. That doesn't mean you've given up alcohol. That means you're avoiding the bar. Doesn't mean you're saying no actively to the alcohol, because when you actually say no, you can, that's a real achievement. But avoiding it doesn't work. And it's the same with self-work. Look, she's a little cutie there. Hi. Has she done something wrong? Has she come to say sorry, or have you got something to apologize for, Paul?
When was the last time you said sorry, darling?
Maybe a week ago.
And what did you say sorry for?
Because I didn't go to bed.
Oh.
How did it make you feel when you said sorry?
I felt good that I was honest and not hiding it from you, and then it made you feel happy that I said sorry, and it made me feel happy.
Brilliant. Well, that's
my God.
In a nutshell, that's what we're talking about.
She's going places.
Right? She needs her own podcast.
Yeah, she's good.
That's so
that
good.
wraps it up.
Yeah. I don't think we can do anything more on the show. I think she's just nailed it.
But it's true. I mean, what we're talking about there is it's all about us, isn't it? I mean, we're saying for us, and we're forgiving people to make us feel better. So, and you were saying that you wrote this email, but you didn't send it because it wasn't for them. And that's the crux of it. We think we're important in other people's lives. Really, no one gives a shit about us. We need to get over it because we're all tangled up in our own lives so much that thing we did yesterday that was just so inconsequential in their life that now we're chewing over and beating ourselves up over. They've moved on. We need to move on, and that comes back to being kind to yourself and just accepting we are all very imperfect beings. We all make mistakes. We have to make mistakes to progress, to learn, and therefore, when we make a mistake, own it, move on from it, say the sorry, do the forgiveness, but then please just let it move on, let it go, because they don't care. Very few people, unless it's a. I mean, Richie, your one probably did matter for a couple of months, but
yeah, yours is the worst.
A few years. But hey, but Nat, I really liked your story about the email, because it's like a modern version of the unsent letter exercise. If you've ever done that one before, which is so powerful. But there's another step which is really interesting, which I only heard about back into last year. For those of you who haven't done an unsent letter before, it's like if you feel like you need closure or something, or you want to, exactly to Nat's kind of example, and close the loop, our beautiful loop. Another thing that you can do, which I found to be super healing is actually to send yourself a letter back. So it's like you tune in to that person and then write on their behalf.
I've done that before, but not in this situation. I'm going to do that.
And it's amazing what comes up, you
Mm.
know, and all the things that you never think about, you know, as long as you really consciously put yourself in their perspective and then just sit in that energy, all of a sudden you see the whole situation in a different way. And in the end, you realize, wow, we're both innocent in this, actually. In fact, we're all innocent in this. And it's just, you know, patterns and games that get in the way of seeing that.
I love that. That's a really good place to end the show. Everybody needs to go out there, write a letter, say sorry, write a letter, and then write yourself a letter back with love and sign it that love.
Brilliant.
I think that's the perfect way to do it. Guys, I've absolutely loved this show, and I've loved the mix of the stories and the awkwardness and the real sharing as well. Like, there's no hiding. You were all really raw and vulnerable, which is why I love Talkward so much. This has probably been the most Talkward kind of one I've had for a while, because we've talked about a few things, but you have all owned it and like didn't hold back. So I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. And we'll have you all back at some point. Yes.
Thanks, Nat. Loving what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Do you know what? This was actually meant to be my last show of the.
Yeah,
I know, because I literally booked every night until tonight was my thing. Well, that kind of went out the window. So I have a show. I've got a show tomorrow about dating from this amazing dating coach from the States. So she's quite funny. I got her on. And then Sunday night, I've got what is sound healing on Sunday nights. We've got going down the rabbit hole again with sound.
You got Tracy on Sunday as well, I think, yeah?
You what, sorry?
Tracy Story joining you on Sunday?
I've got Tracy Story and Jonathan Halstead. And I've got Charlie Draper. So that's going to be a good one. And then we've got so what I decided to do, because I was going to go toe for toe with Boris. I'm kind of still going to do that, but I'm not going to do it every single night because I've realized there's some stuff that's come up for me, which is I'm been working on, which I'm loving. I'm getting more personal clients, which is great for my personal responsibility stuff. And it's just, I'm really so grateful for this period because it's taught me a lot and I've got connected with so many fascinating people. But I'm going to do 3 nights a week. So I'm going to do Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays as a straight fix. And we're themed kind of, we've got a really interesting set of shows next week. And I just, I'm so grateful for this time. It's been mad. I can't believe I've been doing it since the beginning of January, every single night. It's just
You're
like,
a trooper now.
well done.
Absolutely. Amazing content you've got now. Amazing.
Stamina. Stamina. Well done.
I'm loving it, and there's so much more to come, and everybody knows that's going to be watching this. We're going to have the TV. I mean, having the actual TV channel on Roku and Apple TV and Amazon Fire is a dream come true. Having that whole setup and being able to provide content. And I actually start at the end of this month, we're starting a new 6-part series with a girl called The Shroom Room. So it's all about the power of psilocybin and psychedelics on a benefit and healing basis. So that's going to be really exciting, which I never thought I'd do. There's loads of stuff. It's very happy. But less about me, more about you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I will book you all again. I don't know what shows for, but I'll send you out the calendar.
Paul and I have got our own shows coming up too, don't we?
Yes, we have.
You need to wear that through, Faye, yeah. So,
you can come on mine, Paul. I'm sure that's cool with Nat, you know. And I can always come on yours, and
exactly. Yeah.
it'd be nice. You're also very welcome. You know, let's keep it in the family.
Honestly, Nat, you've given so many of us an opportunity to do this. The first time I've ever been live on the interweb before, and it's wonderful.
You're natural, Paul.
And my little one joining me is all good fun.
And the dog as well.
Oh, and the dog.
Shout out to your dog, Paul.
He's been very good actually.
What's his name? What's his name?
His name is Smarty.
Smarty. Oh.
And he loves to party.
Party loves to party.
Where'd you go?
It's very nice.
We're going to see the dog. Oh, hold on. Look. I think he likes to party more than he does live streams.
He's all partied out, I think.
All partied out. Yeah, thank you. So,
we've all been there, Smarty, and we get it.
He's my best friend.
cold hard floor sometimes is the best thing, isn't it?
But
Punishment again.
there is oh, go on, listen. There is so much more opportunity for like collaborations and people coming on board. I am literally got a whole TV channel to fill and program. We've got so much content to be doing. We've got to do crypto stuff. We've got blockchain stuff. We've got psychedelics. We've got Richie. I want to talk to you about breathwork and featuring you on there. There's so much to do on like an international basis, and I wanted to use this time to generate content to kind of get an idea of what people like to listen to. So the 4 things that people love the most out of all the types of shows I've done. Obviously, people love talking about sex and emotions. So anything to do with relationships and sex is that.
Yeah.
Money is the next one. Then we've got anything to do with like law and freedom, and then obviously sound. So anything to do with sound and energy and vibration. So they're the 4 subjects we're leading with in the kind of TV angle, which is very good. And it's nice to see the reactions and the responses. And it's just, yeah, I'm just very happy to have as many collaborators as we can get, because it's not just mine, it's everyone's. It's TV for the soul. I am sound, TV and radio for the soul. That's my new tagline.
Love it.
Oh, cute, isn't it? So, yeah. Has anybody got anything they'd like to add before we depart for the evening?
Yeah, one thing.
Go for it. You can whisper it if you want. You can do ASMR.
I like this one. It's always stayed with me. I can't remember who taught me it, but it's the thing of if you're blaming somebody for something, or you're playing the make me game, so you made me feel like this, how dare you, you've made me feel angry, you've made me really upset now. My friend Selena would say, she'd talk about her own mum, when she would having arguments with her, and she'd say, if I could make you do anything, it would be to come over here and give me the cookie jar or your PIN number. It certainly wouldn't be to get hiding, because her mum used to say to her, don't make me come over there and give you a hiding, don't make me come and give you a smack. And she's like, well, if I could make you do anything, it certainly wouldn't be that. Let's not play the make me game. And the thing is that we're not responsible for how anybody else feels. We are only responsible for how we feel, and we can't take on any guilt for how somebody else is feeling. That's their stuff. And I think it's just really important to remember that, we've got to own up our stuff. We are responsible for how we're feeling, but we've got to draw the line as to somebody else. It's awful that somebody else is hurting, especially if we might have been a part of that, but still it is down to them. And we're triggering something that's already a wound within them, Yeah. And no one can look to somebody else to get themselves off of the hook, really. Your redemption really has got to come from yourself, the power to yourself. So if you want to be free, you're the one that's got the key to that freedom, nobody else.
Oh, where's my key? I could have held up my key.
You could have done.
I held up my magic key, but this little one's got something to add, and I think are you adding something? Is this your finger? Go for it. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to say thank you for letting me join in, and I also wanted to say that you guys are all an inspiration to a lot of people, and especially me.
Oh, that is so lovely. How old are you?
9.
9. Wow, you're a lovely, lovely little girl, young woman.
What you were saying there, Faye, is something that Safi and I talk about all the time, about how we are absolutely in control of our own emotions. We're in control of our own thoughts, our own actions, our own words. And every situation is just impartial. It's just a situation. How we react to that situation and how we attach to that situation is our responsibility.
Yeah.
So we often have that conversation in our house about how we're feeling about a situation, and if you're feeling angry or sad, then own that emotion, but also recognize that you're the one that's creating that within you. You can't point the finger out and say you've made me feel like that.
No.
Yeah, so true. And there's a thing as well, just on the very last bit, and we won't keep you too much longer, but if you are willing to do the work, just be okay if the other person's not.
Yeah.
because there's not much you can do. You can't, no matter how much you try and you want them to, you're also going into the realms of manipulation. It's not your job to make someone else do the work. You can show up.
Yeah.
And if the door gets slammed in your face, kiss the door, give it some love, say thank you very much. Close my loop. I shall see you on the other side. And hopefully that at some point they'll do their learning too, but it's not your place to do the work for them. That's where the boundaries come in, and that's a whole other show.
We said on another show, didn't we, Nat, that you can't change anybody. The only person
you can't. And I there's so many instances in my life where I've really tried, and I'm like, why am I trying? I'm like, oh, boundaries, stay out. So on that note, you guys stay there. Everybody else at home, thank you so much. If you haven't already subscribed and you want to do so, that will make me feel great. Please do so. Also, like it if you like it, and share it if you care. If not, we hope you've had some kind of good evening this evening, and that you've enjoyed it. And I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the evening. And for now, bye from us.